Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marble Snap video. So today we've got an OTA deck roundup. We got some neat changes here. 3 buffs, 1 nerf, finally some impactful buffs in my opinion. Last few weeks we've gotten buffs, but overall I think they've mainly been a lot of buffs to pretty bad cards, making them slightly less bad cards, but not really having a huge impact on the overall metagame. And with this week, I think that's changing. All 3 of these buffs I think are pretty impactful and have a good chance of affecting the overall meta. Before we talk about the decks and the buffs though, you want to rip the nerf band-aid off and out of the way, and that is Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is getting an adjustment, so he is no longer going to summon 5 power Doombots. His Doombots are going to be reduced to 4 power each. This is a really weird change to me. Their justification for it is saying they want more 6-drops to be considered rather than Doom. Doom to me is a symptom rather than the cause of why we're seeing so much Doom, and that is because high Evo decks and lockdown decks are really popular, particularly in high Evo's case. They can oftentimes just win the lane with a Hulk on their own, so if you're not going with a reactive strategy with something like Shang-Chi to attempt to deal with that, outpowering it is just kind of out of the question if you don't have your own Hulk a lot of the time. And this is why Doom has been very good, because it allows us to go wide and not overcommit to one lane on the final turn, so when the high Evo deck slams their one big thing, we still have a chance at winning the other 2 lanes without having to guess where they're playing their Hulk. This is also really good against the lockdown decks because they close out our ability to play cards there, so Doombot's obviously very good against that. So Doom change is really weird to me, and I don't think it's actually going to accomplish the goal of what they said they want it to be, which is more variety in 6-drops. As long as Hulk is going to be a 18 or 20 power card, almost every game you see it played, you're not going to see a variety in other 6-drops. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. You're going to see them in Lockjaw because they're being cheated into play, but I don't think this Doom change makes a whole lot of sense, and I think they would have been much better off adjusting high Evo if they wanted more 6-drops to see play. I think that's still going to have to happen, but unfortunately doesn't seem like it's going to be happening this week. That aside, let's take a look at the decks here. First up, we have our free-to-play Dino deck. So Nick Fury is our buffed card for this deck. Nick Fury went from a 5/7 to a 4/6. This is a really big change. This is really, really good. We can get him off Agent Coulson now. We can just get him down earlier in the game, and this is also really impactful with Quinjet, as Nick Fury is giving you 6 cost cards, so if you have a Quinjet down, you play your Nick Fury on 4, or maybe even 3 with Zabu, you're able to play a 6-drop on turn 5 with Quinjet, then followed up with another 6 on the final turn. I think it makes Nick Fury much more of an appealing card, which is great, because he's always been an iconic character. He's always been pretty hot garbage in Snap ever since he came out. You saw him see a little bit of play in these weird discard helicarrier decks. Some people ran him in Dino, but he just wasn't a very effective card, and now it looks like he's going to be kind of rivaling White Queen for that spot. In the free-to-play version here, we're just running both of them because they're both good. This version only has pool 3 and below cards, handful of pool 3s, and Quinjet, Coulson, Maria Hill, and obviously Nick Fury himself, but very budget-friendly deck, and I think Nick Fury is going to be a great addition to it. If you want to step outside the budget zone and get 3 times value, Darkhawk Dino seems really appealing. So basically, this used to be a very popular version of the deck, kind of fell off over time as other people were kind of moving a different direction with Darkhawk. But I think it's worth revisiting now, because one of the things that this deck has struggled with is the fact that there are only so many good 4-drops. Obviously, we have Darkhawk, Rockslide, Lad is a great addition, but if you're not trying to be super reactive and fill in that spot with Shang-Chi or Enchantress, there just really aren't a lot of 4-drops that make sense in the deck. So I actually really like Nick Fury as another proactive 4-drop. I think this deck has always been better about being more proactive than reactive, and Nick Fury seems like a great addition to that and being able to get us more cards to hand for the Dino. We can tempo him out on 3 with Zabu. I think that's one of the biggest issue with the reactive cards, is sometimes it'll be the only thing we can play on turn 3 or turn 4, and it's not getting any value yet. So you kind of have to hold it, and then it gets awkward. But I think Nick Fury is going to see a lot of experimentation in Zabu decks, and one of the better ones will probably be Devil Dino, purely because of the benefit to hand size. Another card you could try and squeeze in here would be Collector. It's kind of a tight list though. Maybe Doom isn't needed with Nick Fury, but I do think Doom is still really powerful in spite of the nerf, just because it gives really good high roll potential for the Iron Lad, and even with slightly smaller Doom bots, it's still a good play on the final turn of the game. Next up, we have everyone's favorite Captain America villain, Red Skull, getting buffed back up. So if you don't know, Red Skull was nerfed a few times in an attempt to rein in the very powerful Zero Shuri deck. That didn't really work out, so they ended up having to nerf Shuri herself, so now you can't hide your big thing behind a Cosmo very easily. This was pretty good because Shuri was very, very dominant. However, they did mention a while back that they were open to reverting the Red Skull changes now that the fact that Shuri was a bit more telegraphed and easier to counter, and it seems they're finally doing that. So Red Skull is going back to a 5/14, however, he's also getting his old text back, so all cards opposite him in the enemy side will get +2 each. I like this change. I think original Red Skull was actually pretty cool and wasn't really a problem until Shuri came about, and the biggest problem with the original Red Skull wasn't necessarily that it was putting out absurd power, which it was, but was the fact that it was really hard to interact with, because between Armor and Cosmo, you just couldn't really Shang-Chi their big thing a lot of the time. And while we can't really hide behind Cosmo easily anymore with our big thing, we do still have access to Armor. I do think the Sauron version is going to be neat to experiment with again. But yeah, good change overall, and I'm curious to see if old school Red Skull can actually stand a fighting chance against all of the really big Hulks out there. So interested to see that Shuri might come back a little bit into the meta, though I would not expect her to be nearly as dominant as before, but overall good change. And hey, maybe we even see Red Skull making a bit of appearance again in the kind of Zoo Infinite Dracula deck that we saw quite a few seasons ago. And then for my big bad enjoyers out there, we got a Nimrod buff. So Nimrod went from a 5/5 to a 5/6. This is pretty nice, spreading the power across the board. Combined with the Dr. Doom nerf, maybe now Nimrod actually has some application, because you can kind of outpower Doom if you get creative with your blowing stuff up with destroy effects towards the final turn. Full disclaimer, Galactus is probably bad in this deck. I'm pretty confident Galactus is not optimal for this deck. I'm playing it because I find it amusing and it catches people off guard sometimes because they just think you're a regular destroy deck a lot of the time, because we really aren't running many Galactus cards aside from, you know, Wave, Death, Null, but these are mostly things you can see in a regular destroy deck too. Wave is nice because she gives us some extra protection against the bounce decks, which are very popular right now. But if you do want to be a bit more successful with the deck, I think it's very reasonable to cut Galactus for another good destroy card like Bucky or Nova. But I run Galactus. I think it's fine. It's not particularly great, not the worst thing in the world. It's funny when it catches people off guard, and it's a little bit better with the new Nimrod because we're going to be getting bigger Nimrods. I like the Nimrod change though. Card felt a bit underwhelming a lot of the time. Apparently they wanted to buff it a while ago, but were scared it would increase the popularity of Galactus, which probably almost certainly would have done. So I guess I can kind of understand why they didn't want to do that then, but now that Galactus is pretty bad, they feel comfortable buffing Nimrod, and this is probably the deck I'd try it in. I've been having a lot of fun with the Thanos Destroy deck off stream. Been one of my more played decks on ladder. Not saying it's the most competitive deck in the world, but hey, it can actually win some decent games, and I think most importantly, it's just a lot of fun to play. If you're a fan of the Destroy archetype, I think this is a really enjoyable deck. And there we have it. Those are our OTA changes for today and some decks to check out with them. Overall, I think this is one of the better OTAs. I think the only big question mark for me is why Doom is getting an adjustment over High Evo. I don't think that really makes a lot of sense, and it's a little disappointing to me. It sounds like we're going to be stuck with the current iteration of all the High Evo stuff for the foreseeable future, as next week is the off week, so no OTA, and they mentioned that the following week, the studio is going to be closed for the holiday. That is July 4th in the US, so we're not going to see a change that week, so the soonest we're going to see another change is probably going to be the first major patch of July, in the second week of July or whenever they do it. So keep an eye out for that. I do think High Evo is going to continue to be really, really dominant and meta defining, but hey, maybe some of these buff decks actually can put up a little bit more of a fight now, compared to the old versions with the not buffed cards. Only time will tell, but I'm interested to check out these cards. I think I would love to see more good buffs like this in the future. They feel a lot more well done and impactful than a lot of the other buffs we've seen previously, and I still think High Evo is almost certainly going to get adjusted, but it's possible they don't have the data yet, or what I think is more likely is maybe they want to change something that has to be done outside of an OTA, where it's a bigger change like Dazzler compared to just adjusting a number. Hard to say for sure, but I would be very, very surprised if that deck does not get adjusted, if it continues with its reign of dominance even after today's changes. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think about the nerf? What do you think about the buffs? What do you think about High Evo, Conquest, all that stuff? Let me know how you're enjoying the game in the comments below. That's going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.